Welcome everybody to the NVIDIA Omniverse live stream. As you can see, we have a host of people joining us from all over the world. We're going to be diving into Marmoset and USD, showing you different workflows. We're very honored to have a few very special guests here, not only from the NVIDIA team, but also from the community. We will dive into introductions in just a moment. I think what we'll do is we'll start off with some quick announcements, as we always do. But really happy to have you here. Please make sure to use the chat if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch to ask any questions you've got. We will try to answer them live throughout the stream. And we are planning to go on Discord afterwards if your question does not get answered during the stream. So be sure to join us. Okay, so first we'll start off with our seasonal art challenge, which was just announced. Ashley herself, who's right above me on the screen now, she is standing or sitting right in front of what she created for this on last week's live stream. But yeah, we would love to see how spooky and what kind of spooky environment you can come up with this month for Halloween. And the best way to do this is to create something and put it up on one of your social media accounts and use the hashtag seasonal art challenge. There's a bunch of really cool stuff actually showing up if you look at that hashtag now on social media. So really happy to see these things flowing in. We also have a new tool available called Run USD, which will help you validate your OpenUSD assets completely free. We hope people take advantage of that. I think it's really instrumental for ensuring your USD compatibility. So please feel free to come onto the Discord or forums if you have any problems or any questions. And the latest Blender, which we had a live stream about this recently, really is a huge step forward. We have actually a Blender expert here from our team, Charles. So maybe we can touch on this a little bit later in the live stream. But yeah, the bridging the gap for 3D creativity and leveraging USD, I think, is where it's at. And Blender just keeps getting stronger and stronger with every update. Aaron Luck has been producing this great video series for USD. The latest one is called Custom Schemas. These are available on NVIDIA On Demand on our YouTube channel. My great partner in crime at headquarters, Amelia, will be posting these links in the chat, and we'll put them in the video description afterwards. But if you want to learn more about OpenUSD, this series is a fantastic way to do it. Aaron has a great way of teaching and showing people how to leverage the superpowers of USD. Finally, last but not least, GTC is back for in-person sessions. We will be doing some virtual support also, of course. We're planning some fun stuff there for people who can't make it. But I believe NVIDIA just posted some of the early bird stuff. So if you go to nvidia.com/GTC, you can see some of the pricing as of today. And there is an advantage to getting your tickets earlier than later. So check that out. The website is nvidia.com/GTC. And again, we also have a channel on our Discord server specifically for GTC. So feel free to post any questions or comments there. Okay, now all the announcements out of the way. I'm super excited for today. First, because I'm as a developer myself, I really was not very familiar with Marmoset. So it was really a great way to dive into and learn more about it by exploring this live stream. As I said earlier, we have a bunch of special guests. We'll start with Ashley. Ashley, how you doing?
Oh my goodness. I have spent the past 4 days moving one whole house to another whole house. But other than that, I'm good.
You survived. And now
I've survived. That's why I'm good.
So we all look forward to the return of your streaming series.
Yes.
Ashley has, I said earlier in the warm-up, Ashley has a great series called Learn With Me. And that's probably going to happen. You said maybe in the next few weeks?
Yeah, probably either next week or the week after. I just got my internet set up. My house sounds very echoey, so I'm going to try to get my house to not be so echoey, and then we'll get started again. And also, I want to reset my background up. I like this. It's cool. But I would like a real background. And right now, my real background is just a stack of boxes.
That's awesome. We can't wait. Yeah, those live streams are fantastic. And if you want to go back in history, you can look at our YouTube channel. You'll find them all there. Ashley dives into some great topics, and you learn with her. It's a really fun way to teach. Richard, thank you for joining us. A newish member of the community team. Really happy to have you here again. And you have been kind of a great presence on the stream, and you will be moving forward as well. You're working on anything special right now? I think we were talking maybe about doing a deep dive on fire and smoke on an upcoming live stream and effects.
Yeah, just playing with the software for the community challenge and just looking at whatever we can do to have spooky workflows, smoke, fire, mist, fog, whatever makes something a little bit more spooky. And then in November, maybe we'll move to something more fall or, harvest or things like that. But right now it's all about the Halloween.
Okay, cool. So I think we're planning for that either next week or the week after. We'll put it up on the Discord server and our ad event calendar. So we're just planning that right now. So that should be a lot of fun. Chris
we could
Scott,
do 2 things at once.
Yeah, we could do. Yeah, we might.
Turkey.
We
walking through the cemetery. I don't know.
we could. That would be an interesting scene to show off, I'm sure. Speaking of interesting, Chris Scott, thank you for joining us, Omniverse ambassador from the community. Thank you. I just kind of threw a question out there earlier just to see if you were had experience with Marmoset, and you said, yeah, you used to use it, so you'd be happy to jump on. So thanks for jumping.
Great to be here, guys.
And as I said a little earlier, Charles is here from our team, our resident Blender expert, but also is personal friends with our guest, one of our guests of honor, Armin. So Charles, why don't you tell everyone what you do at NVIDIA?
Right now, I am the Blender connector, one of the Blender connector people, and I also work on the Unity connector. And cool. It's a lot of interfacing with people and talking about how to get Blender and Blender assets in and out of Omniverse, and working on bugs.
And, yeah, interfacing is right. Charles is all over our Discord server helping people on those 2 very big connectors. So thank you so much, Charles, for all your help with the community. And we also have, let me see if I can bring them in. We also have Esk and Case joining us, but let me start with Armin first. Blender is a great topic actually for this live stream because Armin has actually just written a book, which we'll talk about in a second, about character rigging in Blender. And he used Marmoset for the cover image of his book. Armin, thank you so much for joining us today all the way from Berlin.
Having me.
And you, you've been working with Blender for a while. Obviously, we're gonna talk about your book in a few minutes. But how far back did your experience with Marmoset go?
Let's say about a year. That's where I started looking into it. It was related to the book, and we'll get a bit into that. And the reasons why and why it's good.
Okay, great. Okay, cool. So yeah, this will be a great live stream to dive into both those things. And we also have a very special guest as well, SNK. Thank you for joining us today. He's actually calling in. He's en route, traveling on a train, a really cool train in Europe. I believe he's in England right now as he's connecting in. So there he is.
I love it. Look, it's green too.
I know it's NVIDIA green.
NVIDIA train.
So pending his connection, he's going to try to jump in at different points during the live stream. And if things work out with the train timing, he might be able to jump off at some point into his office. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. But really happy to have you here. Okay, so we're going to dive into to Marmoset on the stream. And to start things off, I have an older video that Ashley found for us earlier today that kind of goes over just the basics. So just a disclaimer here, this is not one of their latest videos, so the assets and stuff might be a little outdated, but I think for purposes of giving people a little bit of introduction, I think this would be a fantastic way just to start things off. So let me see, we'll play this, we'll be back in about 2 minutes. Very
the
cool.
video.
Yeah, very cool. Very inspiring. And I believe a few folks in the Marmoset team may be joining us in the chat at different points during today. So we may get some official answers for some of your questions there. So it's great to see the chat live right now. So please definitely feel free to post your questions or comments there as we go. All right, so Armin, we're going to start with you because you actually have just released this great book. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and your book you just worked on?
Yeah, of course. Let's see how the blurring handles it. So this is my book.
Very nice.
Came out.
Congratulations.
In September. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Armin. I'm a technical animator. Been doing both for about 15 years now, something along those lines. Been also writing some tutorials online, had a Patreon going for a while, which kind of kicked off the whole talk about the book and the publisher reaching out and asking me, pitching the idea of, do we want to grab all of that material, wrap it up into something nice like this book, which we did. So far, I'm really happy with the response that I've been getting. People seem to like it. Could be better, really. So super happy to have that.
That's very cool. So the publisher actually reached out to you based on the tutorials you were doing?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't even cross my mind to write a book. I was just happy with doing like my small snippets. And then we started a conversation about it. The more we talked, the more it made sense, because we kind of very early on established that there is a bit of a gap in that area. There's, of course, a ton of video tutorials and courses and mentored courses, but when it comes to like the written form, there isn't really anything up to date that is like such a collection of from A to Z. Like, this is what you need to know to get from a static model to a rigged character. So yeah, I started writing that. I mean, this was 2.5 years ago now. One of the struggles was how fast Blender develops and how quickly everything changes.
I was going to say, did you have to do a bunch of rewrites?
Yeah. I think I started in, what was it, maybe 3.2 or something. And I had to update everything to 3.5 at the end. So not too much changed, but as soon as the book came out, yeah, they had to announce this whole new animation workflow, animation pipeline. Now 4.0 already has some changes that, I mean, if the book continues doing well, then it's going to probably be a second edition where I have to rewrite a lot more.
That's
but
great.
For now, I'm safe.
That's great. And what led you to? So the cover that you just showed has a character on it, and you were telling me that you actually leveraged Marmoset to help create that render, right?
Yes. So I'm not well versed in rendering. It is one of my, I don't know, least favorite areas of 3D, just because, I don't know, I don't have much experience, and it's always, you have to wait a bit, check what is happening, and there's a certain expertise that you need to have to understand how to set up the lighting and how to set up everything. And then I looked into Marmoset, tested it out for a bit, and it was a lot easier. It was, if I was able to, like, at a total or relatively, beginner-ish level in these topics, I was able to get something decent looking out of it, then, that speaks a lot about how approachable it is and how easy it is to get something going.
Very cool. And that was my next question. I think, Ask NK actually gave me a really, really nice message earlier. I asked him, what does Marmoset mean for him, and kind of like why does he choose to use it? So I'm just going to read what he wrote earlier. Marmoset Toolbag is an excellent choice for artists looking for a speedy, intuitive, and real-time PBR texturing and rendering solution. Currently, the only competent real-time PBR toolset that offers texture baking, look dev, optimized shading and texturing, animation, and so much more, all in one simple to use package. So that's a pretty good testimonial. I'm going to try to see. I'm not sure if his his connection is good enough right now, but I'll add him to the stage in case it opens up. And SNK, feel free to jump in at any point during the stream. Okay, so that's a pretty compelling reason to use Marmoset, and obviously they've just come out with a nice update. Was it difficult for you to start to kind of learn and dive into it?
No, not really. I mean, there's some very good tutorials by Marmoset on their website with like quick and easy tips to get certain looks out of it. But other than that, it is so straightforward. It's basically a list of buttons to click, and you, or at least in my case, it's more about what I want to get out of it instead of how to get it done. So, you know, it was just, I don't know, a couple of days of work just to get comfortable with it, and then, you know, find a workflow that works for me. And that was pretty much it. I mean, it's very easy.
Very cool. And I think you're going to share your screen in a moment. So feel free to do that, and I'll make sure everyone else can see it. Seeing some great chat in the both chats from our community. So great to have everybody here. Ashley, so you're just starting diving into Marmoset yourself, right?
Yeah, when you asked me about it, I was really curious because I love learning new apps anyway, and something that's creative is cool. So I like downloaded the trial, and just like Armin had said, I was like going through all the tutorials that Marmoset put out, and they're super easy to follow. And for one, I really love that they're like short format style, so they're like between 11 and 20 minutes, and for me that's like really helpful because I can kind of get something done in between like projects throughout the day. So yeah, I found it to be pretty straightforward too, just kind of clicking buttons all around. I kind of had trouble with the like brush part with like actually like painting on a texture. So I'm curious if Armin can show that later on in his workflow if he knows how to do it, because that was probably the only point that I had trouble getting past.
All right, very cool. And here we are. We can all see this beautiful character on the screen now in a nice pose. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this is the final image for the book cover. So the idea for today was to just go a bit over the entire process, like from start to finish, and showcase the workflow and maybe some of the, you know, some of this could be useful for other people, like just peek behind the curtain. So of course, before I came to this, I tested out or played around with some different posing. I always had this idea that it is kind of her showcasing something like, I don't know, basically pushing the idea that she's proud of how she's set up. Like that was kind of my idea for the cover. So I started with a couple of test poses. I think Charles actually knows these because I was running these by him to see if they make sense and look good. So there were a few poses. This is like just an overlay from Blender, testing out if I could push this idea of the rig and her being proud of the rig. But I ended up thinking that it's too busy, and this was the final pose. So it's a lot simpler. It's a lot more like this is what it is, like in your face. Before that, I got some templates from the publisher, so I was kind of playing around with testing if it works there as well. And I can also show you a bit more of the entire process. So this is the rig and the pose that is in Blender. So, I mean, the book is about rigging in Blender. It's about rigging for games. So it's a game compatible rig and a custom UI and all of that. And I made this, of course, I don't know how many, almost a year ago now. So I wasn't really able to use some of the new USD workflows, which probably would have made this a lot easier with relinking textures and materials and stuff like that. But, you know, people can benefit from those additionally now. So yeah, I made this pose in Blender, sent that to Marmoset, and then, as I said, it was a matter of just clicking some buttons on the render project. I mean, it's super straightforward. As you can see, already see in the preview render, it's clear if you need to adjust some things, and you know, you can play around very easily and interactively with things. and turning on the ray tracing, I mean, you can also see how fast it is. And I'm not even, like, I think my computer is at least 4 or 5 years old now, so that's not even the top of the line stuff. Oh yeah, didn't really mention, like in the cover, there's all of these widgets and stuff from Blender on top of it. But, with pretty much everything 3D, it's all smoke and mirrors. So it's not really the actual bones and the actual widgets. It is 3D meshes that I just made. And I made them to look like, wait, I also have the bones in here. So I made it to look like bones and these rig widgets so that I could render them out in Marmoset as well, get the benefits of having a high quality render on these bones and control objects for the rig. And then after rendering out, what a cool feature that I really like here is that you can keyframe cameras and stuff and then render out all of that as a sequence with multiple cameras as well. It's super straightforward and easy to do. And then I sent that to Krita. It's an open source painting software and image editing software that I like to use. And this is the raw render that I got from there. I overlaid these rendered widgets and bones, and then did a bit of tweaking just to, get it to look a bit better, a bit of post-process. So some of it is very small, like adding a bit more shine to the earrings and like painting different eye highlights, like here. I don't know if anybody would notice this on a super tiny image on the book, because this is maybe 0.5 millimeter. But, it's also for me because I like to make it look, or I like to be happy with what I do. Then some gradients to pull focus into the face. Same here, just darkening these parts on the top. So, as soon as you look at it, your eyes are kind of pulled towards the brightest areas, which are these widgets in the face. And with the composition, I wanted this circular, I don't know, like line of action, so to say, so that you keep always your attention in this area. And then I added a bit of the background, some highlight, again, to push your attention towards this area. And that was pretty much it, really.
Very cool. And it's pretty intuitive, it looks like. Any tips for people who are just getting started with Omniverse, maybe that you learned along the way?
Use USD. It's the easiest one. FBX is always, can be hit and miss, and doesn't sometimes recognize textures, and there's a bit of manual work. I played around with this actually yesterday to see how easily I can get it from Marmoset to Omniverse. It was 2 clicks, like export and import on the other side. I might have an image of that as well that I can show you real quick.
So I saw it earlier, and it seemed like it was pretty much a direct copy, right? No loss
there. There you go. This one. No work was needed. So as I said, export from there, import here, and then I changed the render mode, and this is it. This is the same background. It's invisible in Marmoset, but it pulled also like this sky image as well. So I had nothing or didn't have to do anything to get it to work. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
it's kind of the dream when you go between applications that you don't have to redo things that should work already. So I was quite happy with it.
Very cool. And I think the key thing there is that everyone has their favorite tools of choice, things that they've been using for so long, and they know the workflow, they know all the shortcuts and everything. And in the past, working with different teams, you've had to have that difficult choice of moving to something else just because that's what everybody else is using, and just to help the team. And now, like that you don't have to make that choice anymore, which is fantastic. I think what we're seeing now is companies that are leveraging OpenUSD are able to let their team use the apps that they're most comfortable with, and their teammates don't have to suffer having to import and export and fix things that didn't convert nicely. So this is a great example you're showing on the screen, and you really just did this quickly. So this is awesome. Chris, you've had, I don't know if Chris is I think is still here. Chris, if you're still here, I'm curious. You obviously use a ton of different apps, and you've had experience. One of them includes Marmoset. What goes into your different decisions of which apps to use for? Are you just looking for what you're the most comfortable with? Or are you always looking at?
No, because it's kind of like the Blender community, which is like, if we do simulations, go to Houdini, but it's like, do you need to go to Houdini? And the answer is no. And so everything doesn't have to be everything to everyone. And so if Marmoset is, I think better than for pricing, better than substance. So as a company, we go what's got the best pricing, what gets us that 80% that's going to be everywhere, because we might get one of those unique texture artists that really want to do substance and go all the way through. But for most of the assets, they just need to be thrown over there. They need some sort of dirt, grime, surface imperfections. And we have a rule at the company, which is 80% is 100. And it's is it 80% perfect? If the answer is yes, please put your pencils down and move forward. And, so with Marmoset and their tool set, it looks like exactly that. It is it can go as far as you want, but to get that 80% as fast and efficient and cost effective as possible at a sense of scale, all right, I'm in.
That's a really good point, because actually your business is you have to produce a certain number of projects, right, per year. You guys have a pretty high number of projects you tackle.
Yeah, we're at 5. We're right now sitting at 5,000 projects a year.
And how large is your team?
We've got 30.
30, yep. And why don't you just, to put that in perspective, why don't you describe a typical project?
So most of our projects we do product design and rendering. We do a lot. We do digital twins, and I don't know, we do even more virtual reality projects for Fortune 500s. But for the most part, the core company is 5,000. It's 5,000 projects. It's renovation, product design. So different manufacturers will come up with a product, and then we're going to have to put that product onto the house. And we're going to show what it's going to look like for not only for the homeowners associations, but for engineering, for everybody to put their eyes and go, oh, this is exactly what it's going to be. And so I call them short arc projects. And so they're typically anywhere between $250 to $500. And even if it's a bigger project, we always keep it down to we break it into little pieces. So we're never caught up by this giant project. And so it's way better, because if somebody's doing this massive project and you want to sign off on a bathroom, it's don't let the bathroom hold up the rest of your budget or pay or whatever. And so using Omniverse, we split everything up, and then but yeah, we're always looking for those tiny details, what's the shortest path we can do to increase our quality over time that I can scale. So it's if I can do surface imperfections and put them on objects and then keep them in USDs as variances, which is we're going to have to show this in snow, or we're going to have to show this in rain, and you can just click a variance with one surface imperfection, I'm in.
Yeah,
well, I talk fast.
It makes a ton of sense, though. Yeah, I popped. That was really interesting. A perspective. 80% is fine, because what Alex said earlier. Oh no, it's Jerry. I'd love for Chris to talk to my high school teachers. That's a great point. But yeah, I think when you're doing projects of that scale and volume, that's the smartest way to do it, right? Especially if that's really all your clients really need. There's no reason to spend the extra work and effort. And allows you to do that kind of volume, which is really impressive. Charles, let me ask you. So you're working on some very popular connectors, not only with Blender but with Unity, and we're obviously with Marmoset's ability to export with USD now. Have you seen a big change yet in how your developers that you're engaging with are leveraging USD to be able to go back and forth? What's the biggest kind of observation from your perspective?
I think that, Armin was saying, the material transfer is a big thing. Being able to at least lean on USD preview surface to get sort of basic maps going. And then, most game engines or DCCs support that look. You know, they all have that PBR look, and you just plug the textures in and you're done. But that plugging the textures in and being done part used to take so much time, and now that's sort of a solved problem. In our latest Blender release, that's something that was added by David Saxon on our team. He has been working on the material conversion stuff, the universal material mapper. So now even more complicated Blender shaders can get converted to a different graph, and they can be opened in Composer. And you know, that's just a time saver. It helps artists get from one place to another with the least number of clicks. I think in terms of Blender by itself, USDZ is pretty big. And the zipped format with all the textures inside is just a nice little bundle you can send places. But it's also being used for things like VR experiences or embedding on web pages and all sorts of stuff like that. And I feel like that's just going to increase in use the longer we go.
Totally makes a ton of sense. And relating back to Marmoset for a second, how did you learn? Did you just learn basically diving into it, or did you leverage any existing tutorials that were online already, or their documentation page, or anyone from Marmoset directly? For Armin?
Mainly directly from Marmoset's page. I mean,
tutorials, yeah.
They're super, super good with, like, it's the kind of tutorial that I like, which is if you aim for this is your approach. If you aim for, you know, a different kind of look, like if it's a stylized character, these are our suggestions. So that gets you going with a good base, and then you can do, you know, anything that you want for your specific character, or, you know, if something is not really fitting for your scenario. But you know, that for me is the main difference between read the documentation, which I also like to do to get into like knowing what every button does. But if I need something quick, it's the best kind of tutorial where it's 10 minutes tops, go through it, set something up, and then, you know, it gets you comfortable with just something. And as I said, then you customize it and make it your own.
Very cool. And your background, so your book is on rigging characters for games. You worked on games yourself, obviously, right?
Yeah. So when I started, I think my first job was the only one where I worked. I mean, a studio job where I worked on film, and then I did a bit of freelancing, which was, I mean, as freelancing goes, it's whatever you can get. So there was some ads and music videos and different kinds of stuff. And then I got into games, and I've been in games pretty much this entire time.
Can you share some of the titles that you've worked on?
So during I mean, I don't know what this audience is into. Lately, I've been mainly in mobile at a studio called Vuga. We are kind of the market leader in some different genres. Before that, as a freelancer, I worked on one of the Wolfenstein games, which was really cool. Then I spent, I think, 2 years working for a studio that provided rigging services for some different titles. And I think I briefly worked on Animation Mentor as a kind of support person on rigs. So, you know, it's been quite a lot.
Yeah, and so when you work with those teams, how much influence do you have as a member of that team on the tools that they're using for that project? Have you found that you're basically always just forced to use what their existing kind of workflow is, pipeline is, or you know, do you have some sway on the projects you're on to try to lean towards one tool over another?
It all depends. I mean, again, during the kind of earlier days and freelancing days, you work with what the studio wants you to work with. Now I've been at the studio now for longer than 7 years, and we have, as I like to put it, like a big studio mentality with a small studio setup, where we like to do things in, I mean, it's also the requirements because we ship like very, very big titles that span across multiple years. So we have to be conscious of the scale, and, you know, whatever we pick, we're going to be stuck with for multiple years. But I have quite a lot of say at this point. because I mean, again, I've been there for quite a while, but also it's a relatively small team. So what we choose, we have to use in the end. So it's up to us to figure out what we want to do. Most of the production is now in Blender, actually, which is really good. I mean, Blender is my tool of choice and has been for a while now. When it comes to game engines, it's a bit trickier, but when it comes to asset production and what we do, I mean, my team right now is just a few people, like a handful of people. So again, it's up to us to pick what we will use and be conscious of how we can scale that and how can we live with it for a longer period of time.
Very cool. And I actually have a nice clip I'll play here. I think it's a nice point to play from Ask NK, who put this together just on the train ride today. So which is pretty amazing.
Wait, how long has he been on this train?
I don't if you unmute himself. I don't know. I think he's traveling through England. But I don't know, maybe it makes a lot of stops.
I'm American. I have no idea what like trains mean in Europe. Can you take them everywhere? Can it be an all-day thing?
It says it's a 6-hour train, so that's a pretty good train ride.
Wow. For me, that's like 6-hour train is like, I live in South Florida. 6-hour train ride would be like Orlando.
Yeah. Well, maybe next week we should all pick a mode of transport and just do it mobile. Trains, planes, cars, bicycles.
Well, if you take a train, it's going to take you like 24 hours just to like get out of the state if you're in the US. So he's definitely, maybe he's been on the train for just a little bit of time. Anyway, I'm impressed. To make a video while you're on the train, regardless of time, that's cool.
Well, let's see what you did.
Pretty far in Europe with a train.
That's amazing. What are we doing here?
I'm gonna go ahead. Let's see what he did on the train today. We'll play this. We'll be back in 2 minutes, but check out this magic from Ask NK. I recognize that logo. I recognize that. Very cool work. SNK, if you're able to unmute yourself, feel free. Otherwise, I understand if it's too noisy on the train. But regardless, that was really amazing. Thank you for putting that clip together. We're all big fans of your channel. Everyone should check it out and subscribe. He's got so many great videos on there. I actually just posted a complimentary blog that people might want to check out, work done by some colleagues here at NVIDIA, leveraging USD Composer and Marmoset. So take a look at that. As you can see, SNK did a fabulous job doing exactly that. There, thanks to Amelia, the channel there. Like I say it, and it happens right in the chat. I don't have to type. So thanks, Amelia, for posting those links. Really cool. I think that the magic of this is being being able to leverage the tool that you're really comfortable using and works great for your workflow, whether you're doing 5,000 projects a year like Christopher Scott, or whether you're doing one over 10 years like the video game project I've been working on forever in my spare time. It really just depends on what your needs are. And let me ask, I mean, also, like, what was when using Marmoset, and you worked with a couple of really cool people actually on that character, right?
Yeah, so the history of the character is I initially wanted to release the full rig and have it, have people animate it and, create their own stuff with it. And then early on in the process of writing, I decided I'm not going to do that. So it mainly became the cover character, and there's some pages that still feature the character. But I worked with some really great people. One of my colleagues, Christian Nauk, created the design, and then I commissioned the model from Masouk Ahmed. Both really great people, and I mean, Christian is one of my favorite artists. Really, you can check him out on ArtStation or somewhere. Really great stuff. But yeah, I mean, super happy with everything, and then we ended up with a nice cover as well.
Very cool. I'm gonna I'll post their names in the chat so people can look them up also. Why don't we talk about your book now, since it's just about a couple months out. So tell me about people obviously using Blender would be probably the first category of people, but also people who are specifically rigging characters, right? And what would be the kind of your pitch for why people who should be checking out this book and what they're going to get out of it?
Yeah, so anyone who's looking for a full guide to, and basically you can start from zero and get into the book, and at the end of it be capable to not just replicate steps that someone showed you in how to create a character or a character rig specifically. I made it in such a way that it teaches you why of pretty much every step. Also a lot of pitfalls, like things you should keep an eye out for. I mean, it goes through the whole process from some topology examples and what to look out for, because like when you start rigging, people will ask you, like one of the first questions will be, they send you a model and ask you like, is this good? Can you rig this? And then how do you evaluate that? What are you looking for? What is going to deform well? What is not? Depends on also, what kind of game are you looking for? What kind of animation is going to be done with this character? Like all of these questions that, there's not many places where you can learn these things. A lot of it comes from experience, from being in a studio and from, making, dozens or hundreds of rigs, and, learning how to quickly identify these things, and, how to know what is a good model for rigging. And then, we get into bone placement, why you want to put bones in certain places, and what are the benefits, and what does it look like if you don't do that, so you can identify those as well. Like if it doesn't deform well, why doesn't it deform well? Then one of the biggest pain points for a lot of people, weight painting, trying to get people to understand weight painting, what it is, what are the techniques to use. Then also a structured process for doing weight painting, because you can easily work yourself into a hole, and then have a lot of messy weights and too many influences, and not know where the influences are coming from, like all of these things that you can end up with. So I talk a lot about that. I mean, all of this is kind of agnostic to DCCs or software you work with. Obviously, it's at some point I need to use a tool to explain rig setups and stuff like that. So that's where I chose Blender, not just because it's my tool of choice, but also because it's anyone can go online and download Blender and start using it in 2 minutes. It's like a 100 megabyte package. So we go over that. There's also some pages on facial rigging. There's a a little shout out to Faced Audio from Omniverse there as well, because it's such a quick way of getting some facial setups done as well. And yeah, towards the end, we talk also a bit about going to the game engine and how to export different setups from Blender and how to get animation out there as well. I mean, again, I tried to go, as I said, like from A to Z, like give you all the knowledge to understand all of this, and then apply it to any type of character.
So, and you mentioned earlier how there have been some changes in Blender itself, obviously with the latest updates. And it seems like the industry is moving very fast in this area specifically. Where since you have really awesome experience, where do you see things headed next, or what are you looking forward to most in the evolution of technology to kind of making a easier job or giving you more power?
I mean, I don't know how much you have been following the kind of weekly meetings with Blender, and I mean, Charles probably knows quite a lot, but there's a big push to revisit the entire idea of how rigging is done in Blender. It's going to go in a direction closer to what Unreal does at this moment, where it's less of a linear process. It's supposed to be more procedural, more organic, have these kind of bi-directional ways of baking animation to something and then bringing it back to a rig. Or, these are the things that were always really tricky and that people spend a lot of time just to make it work. Another thing that is slowly coming up and is going to be a big change is that the way we rig now is that we try to make a rig like a Swiss Army knife with these different switches and try to accommodate for different scenarios. Again, because it's such a linear process that you have to put everything in place so that when someone picks up the rig to animate, it has to conform to different workflows and the different things that people like. All right. So that's the stuff that I'm looking forward to the most. And it's going to make rigging easier. It's going to make the animator's life easier because they can just not have a super heavy rig that can do everything, but something that procedurally changes to what they like to work with.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's exciting times ahead for sure. Speaking of exciting times ahead, look who just got off the train. SNK, thank you for joining us. It's awesome.
How are you home already?
Yeah, so I was traveling from work to somewhere to go see someone. And so once I just got there, I just told him from the train station, just get your PC set up. I'm coming.
Man,
Yeah.
Europe is amazing. You can just get off the train and get home in the amount of time it takes us to stream. Like, I got to move to Europe.
You just moved, Ashley. You can't move again.
I know. What am I doing? I'll just take everything. Everything's not unpacked. They're still in boxes. I'll just pick them out of the same boxes that I have, and I'll move to Europe with all of my dogs.
Oh, so funny. So SNK, you have an amazing channel. You produce some fantastic content. You're such a great teacher and very inspiring work you do. And thank you for putting together that clip during your train ride. But specifically regarding Marmoset, you're an avid Marmoset user yourself, right?
Yep.
And you gave us that. I read the testimonial you gave me earlier on Discord.
Yeah.
I read it out and I posted in the chat. But yeah, so tell me a little bit about why you choose Marmoset and why you enjoy working with it.
So the thing for me and Marmoset is just like I've actually tried out several tools. Marmoset is just that tool that makes you feel like you are actually doing something to get to an end. So if we don't throw shades on other tools and say like some tools you get to do some stuff, then you move to another tool to do some other stuff, then move to another one. So you're like moving into 3 different tools. There's one tool that is so good at baking, and then another one is good for texturing. Then rendering is in a different tool. You can literally do all those stuff inside Marmoset. And the fun part is now that they have the Marmoset 4, I think that was like 2 years ago. Now they have Marmoset 4. You now have materials you can throw in. You have materials you can throw in. You have textures that you can literally do your own texturing inside there. Still get that proper render. Do your nice turntable. Move your props around. Animate them to fly in, fly out. All of that stuff. You don't need a third-party app to do it. And the fact that Marmoset is pretty light, it doesn't require too many things to get that rendering going on. I think it's just dope. It makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And why don't you tell a little bit more about your channel and the kind of stuff you cover, and we'll make sure to post a link in the chat.
Oh yeah, so Ask NK basically is just it all started out as a channel that just wanted to share ideas and tools. And initially, when we started doing things with tools we think people don't necessarily use, number one, and then somewhere somehow we found out that there were even more tools that people didn't even know about. And I think that was where we came across like tools like Marmoset, 3D Code, and what's it called, the Maxwell renders and all that stuff. So we found out that lots of people didn't get to use that. And for me, because then I was still based in North Cyprus, I was doing my master's then, I had like this task almost every week. The professor I was working with would just come up. I'm like, hey, there's this software. Do you know about it? And I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, let's create something with it. So I was perpetually working on different softwares. So sooner than later, I began to understand that most of the softwares share a lot of things in common. They're fundamentally the same. It's just like knowing where the buttons are. And like the example I give to almost everyone now I teach in a university, I tell them like every modeling software is like learning to drive a car. So you don't say, I know how to drive a Toyota. If you know how to drive an automatic car, you probably know how to drive every automatic car. You just need to know where the buttons are. So fundamentally, most of them have the same principles. It's the same edges, vertices, and faces. It's the same move, rotate, and scale. It's just knowing exactly what button to do, what shortcuts to use. And so the channel started off as a place to share some ideas, some softwares that people didn't know about. I can definitely get them up and running, share them there. And over time, we found out that more like other channels or other genres, like the tech genre, the gaming genre, people share news about what's happening there. But for the CG space, there's literally no news. Like everybody just simply goes online and waits for the day NVIDIA would be like, this is in your face. See it from your email before they say, oh, NVIDIA did something. What's the name? Marmoset and all that. So we decided to say, okay, what if we become that channel where people can come through and get like info about stuff? So instead of them to spend too much time searching for this news online, there's just one spot. And then within that time, we now found out that there were free tools, free add-ons, free softwares, free assets, and all that stuff. So we decided to start sharing all that on the channel. So we just wanted to make it like that one-stop place where you just have to come. If you're looking for free stuff, you want to get updated with stuff, you want to see how a particular tool works. And the name Ask NK was just ask, and we'll just find a way to go through it, learn it, and then share it back. That's basically the channel.
Well, it's amazing, and obviously it's caught with lots of people. You have nearly 250,000 subscribers. Congratulations! That's pretty amazing, and really good testament to the quality of the videos you produce and the help you give people. So really honored to get to know you and have you here today. We have a few minutes left, so if anyone has any last-minute comments on Marmoset, SNK, I don't know if you're able to. If you wanted to share your screen and show something off, you are more than welcome to.
Will someone show how to use the tool brush in Marmoset, please? Please.
Okay, I'm going to show that. This isn't my laptop. Okay, this is what's it called? So I installed Marmoset the minute I got in here. So like I said, it's a pretty easy software to have. So if I'm going to share, let me see, present.
Yeah, you go to present at the bottom, and then you can select your screen. And thanks again for all the great comments coming from the community in the chat. And thanks to Amelia, and big also thanks to Greer and Trey on our team who have been super helpful. Tim Funkhauser, who also very helpful gathering the help for this stream today. We're going to head over to Discord for a few minutes when the stream concludes. So if you didn't get your question kind of hit during the stream, you can head over on Discord. We're going to go to the community room 1. And I believe we're looking at your screen now.
Yeah, so this is basically, so I think I'm going to share, I'm going to show how this texturing thing works with some of the sample stuff they have. So if you download if you download Marmoset, you can simply go to the texture section, or you can go over to Windows, go over to the library section, and from the library you can have this window. And the good thing is you can split these and put them in different screens just in case you want. So for this one, I'm going to get the sphere. I'm going to drag that sphere right out there. And to show you how you can start texturing, like I mentioned earlier, is very easy. All you need is get a material. So let's say this is the material we want to use. Call this ball, okay? Let's just call that the word. And for that, if you go over to your layers, it tells you to start a new texture project. You can always do that by going here as well. So if you go over to texture, you can start a new texture project. So you click to add a new texture project, and then you need to take this material, which is the one for the ball, and plug it right here. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Click that and drop them right in there. So if we go back to the layer, just like in every other painting tool, you've got like your paint, like your painting layer, you've got the fill layer, you've got the adjustment layer, and then the noise, and also the processor layer, which I think is more of working with different channels. So if we click on the fill layer, which is basically the first one we need to do, you can start making changes. So from here, you can select what albedo, which is like your base color, what albedo color you want to have on this model. So you can have that. And if you want to start painting, you can start painting. Now, you probably wouldn't see that because we didn't assign this to that. So we're going to assign it, and let's give it some minutes. Okay, so that happens. Click on the paint layer with your paintbrush right here, just like you have in Substance and also in Photoshop. The open bracket and close bracket is what you use to increase and reduce the brush size. You can also do that from here. And in this case, if I'm on the paint layer, I can select whatever color I want. Let's look for something more prominent, and we can start painting. So like I mentioned, this is a GTX, so it's not like a quick art. Okay, so you can do the whole painting if you're thinking about painting. Now, if you want to work with things like stencils as well, you can. So if you go over to your tools section, you can add some stencils right here. You can add stencils. If you do have brush alphas you want to use, you can throw in those brush alphas. You also have like your brush settings. And so that's pretty much it. Like if you have multiple things you want to texture, you can load those things in and define them as texture projects. So to each material you're working on, so you're working on the material for the head, you have to define that. You're working on material for the shirt, you have to define them as new texture project. And you can do with the layers, how much you please. You can also throw in mask, for example. Say we want to do a simple white mask right here. And the same principle of masking also applies everywhere, where black is seen as 0, white is seen as 1, and then you can play in between. The same principle applies there, so you can see that. So if you're also thinking about painting your mask, you can, of course, go in and paint your mask. So I'm just going to increase that as well. And we can start painting. So if we set this all the way to black, so we don't want to see anything there, we can paint. So I'm doing this with a mouse, so it's totally not as clean as you might want it to be. And for those who might be wondering, what about the viewport and how do you navigate? Navigating across the viewport is very industry-like, which is holding down Alt with your left mouse button, Alt with your right mouse button to zoom in and zoom out, Alt with your middle mouse button to pan. It's the very same thing with both Omniverse, it's the same thing with Maya. And I think Character Creator from the folks at Revolution also have the same thing. And you can also use some add-ons to get exactly the same thing in Blender as well. And if you're also looking for like erase brushes, you can find them there. And there's something I think a lot of people enjoy while working with tools like Substance, which is when you're masking or when you're working with stuff, you would like to select them either by component types, or maybe you want to select a particular surface area. You've got that. So you can pick them from here. We've also got a few selection tools which you can also proceed to work with. So basically, that is how you paint. So whatever painting you want to do, you can do them here. And if you're also wondering, what about painting on channels? Probably there's a particular channel you want to paint on. You can just simply select that, go over to your scene and find those things right about a point like this. So you can define them, you can turn them off if you want, you can turn them on. And if you have like your own personalized maps you want to bring in, you can also just click, drag, drop them in here. And yeah, that is basically how you do your painting.
What a
If you do have questions, please.
What a great walk.
I have a very important question. So is it possible to do like a really low res texture with no anti-aliasing like you're doing painting pixel art?
I think that's possible. I guess at the end of the day, it boils down to the object you want to paint on, and also potentially the UVs you have. I think it boils down to the object you want to paint on, to be honest. That's what I think. For texture painting in terms of pixel art, I guess that works that way. Another thing I think that might also contribute to that is when you're painting and you're working with the brush, within the brush settings, if I have that selected, if I go over here, within the brush settings, there are a few settings I think you can play with. So I believe there's a few settings within the brush settings that you can play with, and it might give you, or it probably should give you something like that. At the end of the day, it boils down to what exactly do you want to do, and then there should be certain workflows for that, which I think Marmoset is pretty good at doing. And guess what? You are literally working here, and you can switch to rendering and see what you're rendering. Like you can literally just switch over to animation and keyframe these things. Like you've got all of your keyframe stuff here. You can keyframe them, preview your animation or preview whatever you're working on. And maybe you want to animate the camera movement, then you want to clean up one texture. You can simply just do that real quick and get it over with. More so, before I stop ranting, so more so, you can also stay within your texture, go over to your windows, go all the way to your library, and that library we picked out earlier. And you do have brushes. So you want brushes, you want materials. Let's say you're out of ideas, you're into ideas, there are materials, you don't want to create them yourself. There's just tons of materials, tons of textures, smart materials, smart mask, skies, which you can use for your HDRI. And did I also mention you can light your stuff here? Yeah, so you can click on the plus button right there, and you can light your model in real time, So you can light your model right now. That isn't contributing that much, but then there you go. So you can light your model, you can do all of the renders, go over to your render, and you can switch them to whatever you want. This is a GTX. Had it been it was an RTX, I would have really wanted to click on this button and switch the denoiser to GPU, so you can get all that going. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, Ashley, did that help?
Yeah, I got it working. I'm able to paint now. I messed something else up, but at least I can paint. Whatever I made looks really weird.
Okay.
So thank you. That was very helpful for me. You're a great teacher. I'm definitely subscribed to your channel.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. What a great way to close out the stream too. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Before we go, I want to make a quick announcement. We had mentioned this on earlier live streams, but this I'll clip this and post this on Discord. But as Ashley mentioned regarding our live stream schedule, as Ashley mentioned earlier, she's been in the process of moving, so her live stream will be kicking up pretty soon. So all you fans out there waiting for that, we're going to post that schedule up on our Discord server and on the Ed event calendar. So keep your eyes open for that. We'll post it also on the general channel on Discord and tag people who have the live stream role. So if you want updates on live stream, make sure you have the live stream role on your account in our Discord server, Omniverse. And then Eric and Jen's great live stream is only on hold right now. It'll be back hopefully in the next month or two. They're working on a very special project right now, but they will be back as kind of on hold. And I think they're going to be coming back and we focus on Isaac Sim and robotics. So that should be a lot of fun. On the USD series that Maddie was working on, Right now, we're probably going to incorporate more USD live streams on this Wednesday live stream. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, and Maddie himself will probably come back on pretty soon on this live stream, and we're going to go over some of the great announcements on USD. I mentioned Aaron's playlist, so we'll probably go over some of that with Maddie. So stay tuned for that as well. And then finally, I know many of you are big Wendy fans like I am. Wendy is still at NVIDIA. She's still working here. Her background is in gaming, and she's very passionate about that. And the RTX Remix team really needed someone with her expertise to help out. So she's working with RTX Remix. She will be on this live stream soon, though, because we're going to cover RTX Remix. It's all part of the Omniverse system, actually. So we're going to be having Wendy back on live stream
guest instead. Oh my god!
As a guest,
Wendy, you better bring your cats.
She'll bring our cat. So there's a quick overview of some of the live streams. So keep you updated on the schedule. We're actually just working now on next week's stream to solidifying some details. So we'll post that on the calendar as well. Could be Richard's spooky scene breakdown with some fire and smoke and other visual effects. But we're nailing that down right now. Yeah, and I just want to thank everybody for watching these streams. And please let us know if there's a subject or a topic or an app or a workflow that you really like to see. And we'll try to get the best people on to kind of go over it with you. These live streams are very fun for me, and I think everybody who comes on and really fun to engage with the community live like this. Speaking of engaging live, our other Omniverse ambassador, Chris, is here. Another one, Rafi Nizam, really just did a great presentation at IBC. Which is an international broadcasting conference. And I have this short clip of some of the stuff he talked about. I'm going to play it back, and then we'll close out the stream following this little highlight reel.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, really long title there. I prefer to call it a 5G puppet show. And hopefully you'll see in a minute why I think that's the case. And as I said, at Neuton, we've got this fantastic motion capture hardware that makes it mobile and accessible for performers to perform anywhere in the world, and then stream it using an infrastructure that these guys have been talking about with that zero latency thing to really create something meaningful with children who need it the most. So we took to Zoom and we took a feed out of Unreal Engine via OBS into Zoom, and whilst the frame rate isn't what it's going to be when we implement the pipeline that these guys have shared, it was enough to get the idea across to the hospitals on the idea and the appeal of the shows. So together with Kids Curing Cancer and Texas Children's Hospital, for this accelerated program, our vision is to try and change the isolation that children feel in hospitals into imagination. We want to be able to connect to any child anywhere. Any child in need should be able to connect to this animated character. We also think a two-way broadcast is really key to this, because both the child and the performer behind the animated character should be able to express themselves naturally.
Rafi, amazing work as always. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait to have you on here next live, but really awesome stuff. As you mentioned in that last part of the stream, he's working on a really cool project with Children's Hospital to try to entertain and just connect with children who are very sick. So really awesome project. Can't wait to hear more about it. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for everyone here for all you do. Armin, thank you so much for doing this great show and tell of your great book and workflow there. And SNK, thanks for joining on your train ride, putting together a scissor reel. Christopher Scott, thanks for your always insightful information. And Charles, Richard, Ashley, thank you all for joining us. Really happy to be here today. We will jump over to the Omniverse Discord server for a few minutes if anyone's got any questions. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.